Awesome, awesome. Well, I am super excited to be here today. My guest is the one and only Joyel Crawford, and I just wanted to start off by thanking you and expressing my gratitude for you being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Debbie, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
How the tables have turned, right? I was
Yes,
a guest on your show way back when.
indeed, indeed. And now you take center stage. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be on the other side of the mic.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Well, I'm going to be shining some more than a modicum of spotlight on you today. So, one of the first questions I want to start off with actually is because you are a human with many many talents. I've been a witness to some of those talents, and so when people ask you, how you keep busy and what you do, what do you tell them?
It's interesting. I like to tell people I grow leaders for a living. So that's kind of my like hook to get them. And lately I've been adding this extra piece that says where I say I'm a business person that speaks. And so
Mm,
they're like, oh, a business person, a business owner that speaks. What does
yeah.
that mean? And so then I go into what I do, which is leadership development. And it's all aspects. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I'm a consultant. So it's just all those things fused together to make sure that I grow leaders for a living so that they can live better lives, just better lives and have better careers and be the best leaders they can be.
And I think that was the first incarnation or the first way that you were introduced into my worldview is you had led a keynote. I think it might have been even been an opening keynote for the was it the Thrive conference? It was a couple of years ago in the
Yep.
throes of the pandemic,
Yep.
and your energy was off the charts. Like it was just talk about setting the vibe, the tone, the energy level for the rest of the conference, which was a virtual conference. And
Yeah.
those can kind of be a little bit, you know, less than in terms of energy. But like I said, you hit it out of the ballpark, and I was like, this is someone I really want to get in touch with. So thank you for making a really really strong impression.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for continuing to be a huge supporter and raving fan. And so I'm really excited to be a part of your success too. So,
Um, we had a little chat before I hit record, and so I'm going to re-ask this question. Maybe not what's been the best part of your day because it kind of just started
yeah.
for it's early in the day, but what's been a good part or the best part of your week so far?
Well, I've got to tell you, I love Fridays. I take summer Fridays all year round.
Oh, brilliant! Yes.
So I have learned in the 10 years of running my own business that I need a day off and 5 day work week doesn't work for me. And so I really try to stay true to my Fridays. And so I call that client X day because I always put clients ahead of myself a lot. And client X is me. So I focus
Ooh.
on whatever client X wants to do, and it's usually hanging out with friends and having lunch and catching up, or going to the pool in the backyard, or um, taking an extra long ride on my bike, or so client X doesn't do any work. Client X does whatever she wants to.
I love that. And the fact that you even kind of branded it in a really kind of really cool and awesome way. I think that's super super awesome. And I've heard of the 4 day work week. I've even heard of the 4 hour work week. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe one day
Ooh, ooh,
that
that
would be
sounds
awesome.
fabulous.
Yes, and I think it's all about passive income and creating a business that doesn't require us to be on and present all the time. Because a lot of what you do and some of what I do requires us to kind of give ourselves fully and be present and give 100% or more sometimes. And so to give ourselves that break is pretty brilliant. I love the idea of Client X Day. That is something I haven't heard, and I love the idea of taking Summer Friday and just blowing it up across the entire calendar. That's brilliant. What inspired you to kind of do that a little bit more formally, right, as a practice, as opposed to just an idea that we should take care of ourselves?
You know what? I think as coaches we like to dish it, but sometimes we can't take it. Like we give great advice
Yeah.
and we ask our coachees to do all these things and
Mhm.
challenge them. And I was just like, I need to, in order to live in the brand that I have, which is
Right.
one of my power words is authenticity. In order for me to be truly authentic and walking the talk, is that I need to do that. And I still struggle with self-care and creating boundaries, but um, I know how I just put 1,000% into what I do, and I can't serve others if I can't serve myself first. So, knowing that I put clients first, I figured it's a little way, a mind trick of tricking myself to say, "Oh, I've got this client. It's their VIP day, so I need to trick myself," and it's a way of tricking myself into making sure that I put myself first. So,
Love it, love it. So you kind of introduced a business person who speaks, right? You are a keynote speaker for sure. I've been a witness to that. A leadership developer, bringing out the best in others. But let's go back in time for just a moment. What was the genesis story? How did you get involved in this line of work in the first place?
well, I didn't even know I was doing it until 15 years later. But
Yes.
it all started probably when I started working in my first corporate job, where I spent 18 years of my life. And I worked in a telecom company in customer service. I started out in customer service, but the first day of orientation, I saw this gentleman at the front of the class, and he was talking about all the benefits of the business and how important it was to be here. And I was like, I want to do that. Whatever that is, I want to do that. And of course, my supervisor that, had just hired me, she's like, you need to focus on the job that you were hired to do. But I was like a heat-seeking missile. I was like, what is that? What is that job? And so one of my seat partners was like, that's HR, and it's impossible to get into human resources. Um and I just thought, well, like, hold my beer, like, have you met me? So telling me something that's impossible just didn't resonate with me. It didn't compute. So I just kept asking people, how do I get into HR? How do I know? I kept on going up to the HR department, and I was like that persistent little like person that kept on, like the TV sidekick that keeps on coming in, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, here she comes again.
That's
But I was
awesome.
just super interested in getting into that department. And so people were telling me certain pathways, like getting into training and development. And that's part of what that gentleman was doing. And that's part of human resources. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just try to get into the training department. And so there was a exchange program, and I finally got into that and got some experience, and that really fueled me. And so then I started creating training opportunities and courses for my floor mates and customer service, and then I moved into another department and did that. And then there was this opportunity to write a scenario for our company-wide training. And once I got to, it was at headquarters, and so once
Mm.
I got there, I remember talking to this gentleman, and I said, I want to get into HR. So like, I'll take out the trash, I'll do whatever it takes, but I want to get into HR,
Oh.
and more specifically training and development. And fast forward about a year after that, uh, something opened up, and he gave me a call, and I said, I'll take it. And he said it was an admin job. And I was like, that's fine. I know how to answer phones. I was in customer service
Yeah.
for like 3+ years. I'll do it. And and that's where people started asking me, how did you get out of customer service into HR? And I just told them what I did. I was asking questions, I did presentations and things. And so I kept doing that. As I kept moving my career, everyone kept asking me how I was doing it. And executives and the CEO and heads of HR kept on sending them my way. And probably, like I said, 15 years down the line, a gentleman who had been just seeing me, like, pulling people into these rooms and helping them and coaching them. He said, that's called career coaching.
Mm.
And I was like, what, you mean I've been doing the job with 3 people and only getting paid for one?
Oh yeah. Oh
I was
yeah.
like, what, wait, what?
Mhm.
So I did some research, and I had met this fantastic gentleman that I was dating, and he had been a consultant in IT for many, many years. And he said, you can do this. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I feel like a career coach is somebody, who's got like a PhD or something, like really super, super like steady in their career and like eons of experience. And he's like, no, you've got almost 2 decades of experience here. You should be able to. I did it. He's like, you can do it. And I just instantly thought, oh my gosh, I can't start a new career, just kind of leave where I came from. This job, I started this job when I had graduated college, and I just felt like I'd be instantly unemployed, starting my own, like hanging up my own shingle and being a career coach. But I took the big leap. Circumstances in my past led me to a career, a series of different of health challenges that did not lead me to be the best that I could be. And I had to make a choice. It was my health or my well-being, and my well-being, or continue working in this type of situation. So I made the choice to start my business. So it kind of pushed me, into hanging up my shingle and being a career coach, and starting my business and thinking about what did I really like doing once, when I was in corporate. I liked training, I liked facilitating and speaking, I liked coaching, I liked mentoring, and, it all just glommed together into my practice, Crawford Leadership Strategies.
Wow. So for me, I'm hearing it's not just, I mean, you had the right mindset because when I work with clients at the very beginning, when they want to make a pivot, a functional, pivot, even if they want to stay in the same company, making a pivot from, customer service to HR, or from sales to finance, or from finance to marketing, or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really significant functional or job discipline shift.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have the grit that you displayed, if they don't have that sort of mindset that they can do it, the hold my beer, like I'll prove you wrong that I can do it, chances are they're just gonna default to whatever's the well-grooved, easier path, which may be to either stay and just realize that that was a pipe dream, or go to another company and stay in the same type of job role, but really let go of that dream because they're not they're not really rewiring their brain or reframing it to something like, hey, I can do this. It requires work. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just a mindset. You had to prove yourself time and again. You had to show up as the sidekick. You had to just try all these things and open doors for yourself. It didn't sound like it was easy. It was not handed to you on a silver platter. So yeah, it's not just the mindset. The mindset is huge, but there's also a lot of patience and grit and little activities that you have to do, and constant rejection
Yes.
if you want to do that. So that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
What comes up when I share that for you?
Well, the other piece of it is that there's a lot of fear in making a pivot,
Yeah,
and that's something that I deal with my clients. I'm sure you deal with your clients as well,
sure.
is that fear of the unknown and making that pivot. But
Yeah.
the thing that I really realized from my own career transformation was that I had transferable skills. And working someplace for almost 2 decades, or even if it's 2 years, you start to believe that the skills that you've developed there are only valid in that space. And so I had to really fight against that fear. I mean, I had my website done probably 6 months before I told people, probably a year after I told people that I had a business.
Mhm.
So it was really fighting past the fear
Yeah.
and really truly having the faith in yourself and your abilities that you're able to lend them to other places and other departments and other functions. So
Wow.
that was something that I learned, and I took that as something that's relatable. It's that pain piece, as you're trying to get more clients, right? You're thinking of speaking to the pain, that pain is very real and relatable because
Yeah.
I've been there. So I
Mm.
know that. And so that's a lot of the things that I work with my clients on, is that fear, getting that fear out of the way and leveraging and having faith in the transferable skills that you have and possess.
Well, the fear for me in 2015 when I hung up my little shingle was like paying the bills, right?
Yes.
And so my first clients were actually, they were sort of career coaching adjacent, and the first, I think the first paid client I had nothing to do with that. Actually, it was just kind of ghostwriting a book about a topic
Mhm.
uh, about which I had no business writing, right? But it was a way to pay the bills, and I did I think a good enough job, or according to the client. But do you recall your first,
Oh
paycheck
yeah.
or your first few clients? What was that like?
Yeah, and I would say they were career coaching adjacent as well. They were more HR based, right?
Yeah,
So some of the first clients that I took on were in recruiting, because I knew I was a generalist. So
yeah.
I would apply to be a consultant and contractor for more leadership development and that coaching piece. But they were like, well, what we really need is a recruiter. So I was
Mm,
like, well, I'll help you out here and then like help you down the road. Another was coaching somebody. That's what literally my first paying client was, an executive. So I literally dunked myself deep into executive coaching, which wasn't something that I thought about
mm,
doing, but I just fell into it and ended up helping her, you know craft her team and understand who her team was based on my, again, transferable skills and what my experiences were. And then the third was EAP training. So, employment assistance programs. Remember they used to have, like, I don't know if you remember, they'd have people come in and talk about stress management. And it was like a
mhm.
15-20 minute presentation. It was usually no shade to any of the facilitators that are out there, but it was typically just kind of like check the box, read off a sheet, very dry, not really well presented. No shade. Maybe that was the max of their skill set, but I was like, I could totally do better than this. I could make it
Mhm.
more entertaining from my leadership and development training days. So I would take my personality and zhuzh up these classes, and they were like, this is the best EAP class ever. And so I got a lot of gigs that way, and that helped build up the coffers and kept the lights on. And
Yep, yep.
we were living very, very scarcely. I had, gotten like I had collected a year's worth of like survival money, but it started running out a lot
Mhm.
faster than a year, based on where we were living and everything. So those times where I was sitting at a desk at a health fair handing out stress dots and water bottles, and talking about stress management. Those were the early days of my business, but they were clients and they served me well. And then as business continued to pick up, I couldn't work with them any longer. But
Yeah.
it was those types of things that I latched onto. Another one that I did was I leveraged a relationship I had in corporate with a vendor, a training vendor, who does civil treatment for employees and leaders training. And I had been training that and facilitating that content for over, a decade while I was in corporate. And so I reached out to the CEO and I said, hey, do you need any facilitators? And he was like, and it was right at the cusp of the Me Too movement. So I was like,
Mm.
ooh, this is perfect timing. And so I was able to get a contract with him and their organization. I still train and facilitate. And now I'm master certified. So now I train other trainers how to facilitate the class. So it's just kind of thinking about like the low hanging fruit of what you did and what you liked to do. And then finding those connections, staying in touch, I think is so important. Even when you're not in the career coaching world, if you're looking to get out into a different industry, staying in touch with those contacts that you have and keeping that network hot and warm, not hot, but like
Yeah,
warm,
yeah.
and staying connected, it really made a difference in me getting those gigs and keeping the lights on.
Wow. And you do so much. There's such a diversity in terms of what you offer, right? You're not just a speaker, although there are people who are just speakers
Right.
and they make a fantastic
Yeah.
life and provide great value, but you diversify your portfolio. Um, was that an intention? Did you fall into that? Like, how did you come to that reality?
It was more of the kind of like Goldilocks
Mhm.
approach, It was like, this takes up too much energy, or that's kind of boring, like,
Right,
like
right.
these types of things where I was just like, well, just because I can recruit and staff, do
Yeah.
do I like it? Do I enjoy it? Do I like having to screen employees and haggle for, salaries and ranges? And I was like, no, I really didn't like this part of my job. So I really thought about, what did I really like doing and where am I going to devote my attention and energy? Now throughout the years, when I take on new clients, or if I'm about to take on a new client or speaking gig or a coaching opportunity, I have to think, is it's going to excite me or exhaust me?
Ooh,
Like, I really think about
yeah,
where the energy is going, because I can, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it, right?
yeah,
So if you are a generalist or a jack of all trades or a Jane of all trades in whatever function that you're doing, just because you can do it, do you really want to do it? Because now you have the opportunity to really choose. Like when you're looking at a job rec and you're looking at all the job requirements, is it really something that you're going to be jazzed about, or is this something that you'd rather put a hot pin in your eye and just walk away? Like those, there are certain things like in my day-to-day HR job when I was in corporate that I could not stand, like salary, assessments and
yeah,
calculations. And that's for somebody who loves that stuff.
sure,
If
yeah,
it's not your jam, that's your jam. But
yeah.
why do it if you don't have to? If you have the choice of choosing now and crafting your career, why put yourself in that situation again?
So sometimes I ask folks, whether it's clients or guests on this show, what are you most proud of? And and I'll ask you that question, but I just wanted to say that that can change, right? Like just it could be the thing that you're most proud of in this moment, right? So when you look back again at that richness, robustness, and diversity of all the things that you've done until this moment, and that we're chatting about now, what comes to mind as like most rewarding or most fulfilling? What are you most proud of so far?
I am most proud of seeing my clients soar. I mean, it's funny, my one of my framework, my coaching framework is RISE, right? So it's reflecting, identifying, strategizing, and executing. So we bring each of my clients through this RISE
Mm.
framework as we work together. And it warms my heart. And I feel like a proud mama. Like people still send me, I'm not a mother of children. But people still send me happy Mother's Day greetings,
Aw,
because I am so supportive and nurturing of each of my clients. And when I see them, getting that promotion or asking for that raise, or
yeah.
I just met with one of my earliest clients, and she took me out for lunch to thank me for helping her realize that she wanted some additional education to move her career a certain way. So she went for her EdD. And so she's
Wow.
a doctor. She invited me to her dissertation. So it was just like seeing those
Yeah.
results, seeing them
Yeah.
see the magic in themselves and rising to the next level of their lives and their careers. It's just, that's one of my most, those are the prideful moments, is
I love
seeing
it.
them
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah. I mean, it is my first, I think my first business card said like your success is my success, period. Like that was it. And
Yeah.
that still rings true to this day. And so I resonate with that quite deeply. Now, me being, I'm a bit of a wordsmith and a punster, and even though I'm not a father of children, I have dad jokes, right? So when you said you like to see your clients soar, I know fitness trainers that I've worked with who like to see their clients achy and sore because that means they've
Yes.
done a really good workout the day before. Um, but that's just my silly, wordsmith brain. Um, so we talked about kind of what you do and what you've done, but paint a picture, right? So we know Fridays are client X days, and every week is probably looking different from the prior week and the week that follows. But if I were to kind of ask you to paint a picture of what an average or a typical or an atypical week looks like, tell me
Mhm.
about a week that comes to mind and what did you do in that week?
Well, it could look, if I'm coaching a cohort of clients, it looks like coaching them one-on-one, and each client is different. So there could be a full day of coaching one-on-one, followed by taking a break and maybe touching the second book that I want to write. So like
Hmm.
maybe researching, a little bit about what I want to write on, or we're tweaking this, the uh, the proposal that I want to put together, or it could be taking a little. I've started to build in at 3 o'clock, roughly 3:30, some nap time. So I've become a
Mhm.
nap artist, and I'm punny too, but I've become a
Yes.
nap artist, and I you and I have talked on in the past about, health challenges and taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I am now in my fourth round of long COVID symptoms.
Oh.
So yeah, long COVID likes to like take residence in my body.
Hmm.
So I've got to learn to listen to my body, and usually my battery winds down around 3 o'clock. So I listen to it, and
Yeah.
I just lean into it. So I pop some popcorn, maybe pour a glass of wine or make some tea,
Hmm.
get in under the covers, binge watch a few television shows and doze off, wake up, have dinner with my husband and roll out. So that's like a typical day. And then maybe even prepping, like maybe earlier that the next day I might prep for a speaking engagement,
You got to
study.
start. By the way, you got to start charging COVID rent, because rent free 4 times ain't cute.
It is not cute. I want to evict COVID from
Yes,
my
yes.
life
It's
completely.
a long, long, arduous legal process, but
I
yeah,
mean,
the fact that you're
honestly,
taking care of yourself is good to hear.
yes, yeah, I got it just this most recently. I got it in February while we were on a vacation in Aruba. So
Mm.
yeah, at least having COVID in paradise was somewhat okay, but it takes me, like a good month and a half to
Yeah,
like kind of get back on track.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I've just started to listen to my body a little bit more. Maybe another day I might focus on prepping for speaking engagement, or meeting with my assistant and, figure out what our plans are, what's happening. And then, also scheduling in. I've been doing this a lot more. So just recently, this past week, after my cohort graduated, from the program that I work with, um, I have been building and catching up with friends that bring me energy.
Mhm.
And it's so important that, you talked about the energy that I brought to the keynote and everything. I feel like that's one of my superpowers. And if I don't take that time to recharge and restore that energy, then it's just I'm not gonna be able to bring it to anything. So I really make it a point to recharge my battery, not just by restoring and resting, but spending time with friends and family members that give me more energy, that don't take energy away. Like there's certain friends that are like energy vampires. If you're like perhaps looking for
Uh,
a job and you're seeking it and you're hanging out with yet another, a fellow unemployed friend, and they're not as positive minded, that can really derail, the energy that you're bringing to the situation. And the same goes for just living your life. So I really have been making a
mhm.
concerted effort to create some boundaries,
Oh yeah,
um, and learning to say no
yeah.
to some things. Evening events, like networking events nowadays. I used to be like a master networker,
Hmm. Hmm.
and man, I got to remember what kind of energy am I bringing to this event? Because if I've not rested or if I'm not in the right frame of mind, I don't want to put myself out there because I'm not really putting my best self out there.
Yeah,
So sometimes I've turned down networking events, but I try to get to a networking event at least once a week if it's not like
that's
club
good.
related or
That's
association.
impressive.
Yeah.
That's definitely impressive. I did 3 nights, well, 3 days in New York City in a row last week, and that was plenty, right? And I think this week I'm just gonna hunker down, and then maybe I'll start up again next week. But
Woo.
it was a conference, and reunions and all wonderful things.
Mhm.
And for those 3 days, I was very intentional about trying to maintain my energy, and I did it. But come Friday night, I was pooped, so I was happy to do nothing the
Yes.
following, that weekend. But one question I want to ask you, though, um, given that, sort of the title of the podcast being "My Life is a Typo," I'm a big believer in things, in the phrase, which I only recently learned, but I've been embodying for millennia, which is you either succeed or you learn, right? So you either win or you learn from that experience, and so it's
Mhm.
a win-win either way.
Yes.
So is there a mistake or real mistake or a failure, or a thing that didn't quite go right in your life or in your professional life that you then took and ran with and learned from?
I think, wow, how much time do we have, David? I
If
think
you Yeah.
I honestly, when I was thinking about this, when I think about this question, I think about um, being all things to other people, trying to
Mm,
be all things to all people, and putting my needs last.
yeah.
I literally had to, I still, this year is all about restoration and, maintaining my energy. And I have had to stop myself sometimes and say, me first. I mean, it's like some of the basic things, David, like basic, like, did I drink enough water? Did I go to the bathroom? Did I
Hmm.
eat today?
Hmm.
Those like basic human needs
Yep.
are always last. It's all about me and my clients and pouring into them. But how can you pour energy into this world if you have nothing left? If your battery is dead, you just got to go to the recycling bin, like it's
Yeah.
just burnout is one of the things that I've learned. It is not a one-time thing. So the lesson I have learned is that it can happen often, and
Mhm.
coping isn't resilience. It's it's
Yeah.
really about how we respond to the resilience. Managing my response to my anxiety and stress has been really key to building up my resiliency muscle. So that piece, it's really about not just treading water and like trying to survive, but it's thriving
Yeah.
in those challenging times. And so I sometimes have to step back and really think about whether I'm treating myself well. So my husband asks me every day, were you kind to yourself today?
Mhm.
He keeps me accountable for that. Also, seeing joy in different things also helps feed that battery. But it's so, so important to continue to put myself first, even though, you know, I sometimes feel like, oh, I'm missing out on this or missing out on that. But I'm thinking to myself, really, am I missing? What would I be missing out on if I'm actually there with an empty battery? Like, what kind of
Mm,
attitude or energy am I bringing to that event? So,
wow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
unlearning
I'm
that
learning.
habit.
When you said coping isn't resilience, that is, I love that, and I'm going to stitch that on a pillow one day because that is so good, and it's a narrative I hear, not in those words, but that sentiment from so many of my friends who are coaches and leadership developers and so on. So I imagine it's a very resonant message. I have a million other questions to ask you, but I want to be mindful of your time. So why don't we just close off by just sharing with us how people can learn more about you and all the things that you're currently doing and will be doing, because you are Joyel, and that for me is joy elevated. Like you bring me so
Oh,
much joy, and I know you do that for your clients.
that's
So anyway, how can people learn more about you and keep in touch and with all the things that you're doing?
absolutely. I am active on all of the social media platforms. My main two platforms that I absolutely love, love, love are LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can find me there. You can find me on my website, which is www.crawfordleadership.com. But I am imploring, I'm close to 1 million views on my TEDx talk, Why We Should Go Bald Together. I'm like so
Yes.
close. So
Yes.
I implore all of your listeners to take a look. Please watch, share it with others. I have a book out, which is an Amazon bestseller, which is called Show Your Ask, another punny
Yes.
play on
Yes.
words. And it's about using your voice to advocate for yourself in your career. It's audiobook, it's on paperback and hardback and Kindle and all the things. So you can find that. Please buy that book as well. And then finally, I love to give advice, David. So I have a new advice column. It's on career and leadership advice in Black enterprise, and it's
Awesome.
called Ask Your Fairy God Mentor. And so I would love to get more questions. So if you've got any burning questions about career and leadership topics, uh, send them my way, and I would love to just answer those questions.
Amazing, amazing. Nothing but gratitude for you. Take great care of yourself. I'm grateful to know you. Thank you so much for showing up today.
Thanks, Debbie. Take care.
Bye-bye. Ciao.